Oh gosh, nickname Snake. I wish I had a real erotic story for you, but it's a real boring.
Snake.
Snake.
The Snake. You know what I mean? That's one of the flyest nicknames out there for a quarterback.
Snake, and I know that we have people call him the Snake,
Way to go, Snake.
but he's very particular. He's like, it's Snake.
There's a snake in the grass in my neighborhood. There's a snake in the grass that can't be
I figured he got that from being rather slippery when cornered. Very suave in the pocket.
Oh man, the Snake you gotta be talking about, and that's because he was so elusive, in my opinion, on the football field. He might have been a bit elusive off the field, too.
He was constantly being hit on, constantly being chased. You know, you never know what he's thinking. You never know where he's going. You never know what he's up to. All that said Snake to me.
It's carried on through our family. We were always the Snakeettes. Jack and Justin are the Grand Snakes.
Papa Snake.
Started calling me Snake, and it has stuck, to say the least. Been called worse.
You gonna be a football player when you grow up?
Today is the best day of your life. Believe
Give me 18 years of daylight. That's all right.
Greatest leader I've ever known.
What a ride it's been.
How much sleep do you need to go play 3 hours?
On July 8th, 2015, Kenneth Michael Stabler passed away. He was laid to rest in his hometown of Foley, Alabama. He was 69.
He was a very private person. He had told me that I don't want anything but my family there. We fulfilled his wishes, and in some incredibly fateful way, we buried him on my birthday. It's one more thing I'll celebrate on my birthday is the 16 years I had with the coolest cat on the face of the earth.
You can only think of him as a hero because how else could you perceive him? He's this big, huge guy that everyone loves. And so he'll always be my hero.
What I'm more proud of than anything is just the progressive and open-minded and caring and loving person he was. You know, despite growing up in 1950s, 1960s Alabama, he saw everyone as equals.
He never quit living life, and the most colorful lifestyle I think I've ever known of anybody. He lived life exactly like he played football.
Far right, 89, turn in, 9 in on 1.
Called his own plays, changed the plays in the huddle, changed the play after the snap. Wherever he was, whatever he was doing, he was winging it, he was freewheeling, he was gunslinging, and he lived life the same way.
Ken Stabler played in the NFL for 15 years and was front and center in some of the greatest games in NFL history. In 1972, there would have been no immaculate reception if it wasn't for the Snakes' long touchdown run just seconds before it. Famous Games with Names, Snake was always cool. From the ghost to the post, to the holy roller.
You roll it out there, and, you know, this ball comes loose in the course of the sack, and Pete Banaszak dives at it at about the, 7 or 8 yard line, knocks it down inside the 5, and Casper comes along and inadvertently kicks it 3 times. You watch the chicken up there grabbing his heart, falling backwards and bouncing off the stands and bouncing off the railing, and then finally, bang, hits the deck. And personally, I don't think the chicken was ever the same after that play. I mean, I think he had a stroke right there in Jack Murphy.
Stabler threw for nearly 28,000 yards, fired 194 touchdown passes, and was named to the 70s All-Decade team. He was an NFL MVP, and in 1976, he led the Raiders to their first Super Bowl win. Throughout his life, Stabler had to overcome tough third and longs, on and off the field. In the end, that's what made his football life unlike any other.
Watching, NFL Network today, seeing all these great games, I can really understand that he really was a badass. I mean, a badass football player. He was a man before his time, but I also think he's one of a kind, and he will certainly be missed by all of us, and I know certainly all of you, and thousands and thousands out there that truly appreciate him for what he was.
Coming up, how the legend of the Snake began.
On that great day when he snaked through the line and ran that long, slithery touchdown, everybody knew it was Snake, and it always stuck.
Five weeks after Ken Stabler died, the people of Foley, Alabama, gathered to honor their hometown hero.
Foley's sports history is rich, over 91 years, and our most famous former Foley athlete, Kenny Snake Stabler.
Foley was a special place to him, as I'm sure it is to you. So thank you, and go Lions.
Thank you, Alexis.
I guess the world should have known he was special when he was born on Christmas Day.
I don't know why the Lord picked that day for him to be born, but he did.
Stabler's parents were Myrtle and Leroy, though everyone in town knew them as Sally and Slim.
And I think the combination of Slim and Sally is very much my dad.
He got his compassionate side from Mother. He also got his like to have a good time from my mother. She was a very feisty little lady.
Well, Kenny was like Slim because Slim obviously could have been an all-pro, but he just didn't have the opportunity.
Without his dad, I don't even know if my dad would have been a football player. My dad's first love was baseball.
Snake was better known as a pitcher because he was slender and small. A lot of us didn't think he had the build.
Without a doubt, he didn't want to play football, but Slim bribed him with a car, and what teenager's going to turn that down?
While Stabler was an ace on the diamond, on the gridiron, he struck like a diamondback.
Because on that great day when he snaked through the line and ran that long, slithery touchdown, everybody knew it was Snake, and it always stuck.
Away from sports, Snake shared many of Slim's other passions.
Slim was a guitar player, huge lover of music. Dad certainly is a big lover of music. He was an auto mechanic. My dad grew up working on cars around him, buy an old beater and fix it up.
Slim was also a World War II veteran who returned home a changed man.
Kenny always felt about his dad is that the demons held his father back. Sort of felt like his dad resented his success a little bit.
All his life, Stabler faced a series of third and longs. The first was when he confronted his father in the family home.
Because his dad had a shotgun and was threatening the whole family. And you've got to talk him down off the ledge.
He would say all the time in that story that they would have the rifle that he had, and they both had their hands on it together, clenched, and just stared at each other, and they just cried. So just, so much pain and so much love and pain. I think he wanted to make sure that he didn't do the bad side of his dad, that he only did the good side, which he did.
By the end of his senior year at Foley, his football record was 29-1. Stabler, who'd won nearly every award in Alabama, was at a crossroads. He could pitch for the Pittsburgh Pirates or pass for his first choice, the Auburn Tigers.
Kenny really thought about playing at Auburn because he liked the style of play. It fit more his style of play. But he said the minute Coach Bryant walked into his home and had dinner at his table, he said, I wanted to leave with him then. Thank God that happened, and that's where he ended up because you can't even consider the other options.
Stabler joined the legendary Bear Bryant's Crimson Tide and played behind Joe Namath.
He was really lean. You could almost use the word thin or skinny. But he was game, boy. And you watch him pass now and then, you knew he was a passer. I knew he was a passer. I'd see Kenny change speeds, watch his footwork, could throw anything, even when he was a freshman. And he was only going to get stronger.
Go ahead right now and run the draw. I believe you don't think it'll work right now?
By 1966, his junior year, Snake earned the starting spot.
I would have followed him anywhere he wanted to go.
Stabler scrambles, avoids tacklers, and again throws to Perkins for another 45-yard scoring play.
I can see his face now. I can see that little grin give you a little confidence to know that he's got confidence in you. That's what made him alive. That's what made him live.
On his way to a perfect record, Stabler faced Louisiana Tech and their quarterback, Phil Robertson.
They beat us 34-0. The Snake burned us deep about 2 or 3 times. Them Alabama boys, you got to watch them. They'll slick you so fast it'll make your head swim.
Kenny the Snake Stabler keeps the ball, sweeps left end.
A victory in the Sugar Bowl capped off their undefeated season. And Stabler's celebration spilled over into the offseason.
He was slipping down to Mobile to see his girlfriend, and he skipped practice.
That didn't sit well with the Bear, who promptly suspended him.
Get away with something, not, let the other boys, they might try the same thing. I think they can get away with just like I can. I think it was his decision, and I think it was the right one, and I was wrong.
Stabler was relegated to 5th-string quarterback in spring practice, where he was forced to wear the dreaded brown jersey.
I've worn the brown jersey before as well. It's very incentivizing. It gives you a lot of incentive to get rid of the jersey.
Faced with another 3rd and long, Stabler regained the starting spot to lead the team in a legendary last-minute comeback against Auburn, on a field far muddier than the jersey that Bryant had made him wear.
Rain was coming down so hard and the wind was blowing so bad, umbrellas were literally turned inside out.
3-0. There's no hope for the Tide, and the Snake takes the snap.
Man in motion right. Here's Stabler, keeping himself. Stabler, man, cuts in. He's at the 40-yard line. He's at the 30. He's at the 30. He's at the 30. He's
That play will always be remembered as the run in the mud.
The picture of the run in the mud. That'll go down in Alabama history.
I watched him slither through the mud and the rain and Auburn players slipping right and left.
He didn't mind getting in a hole. He almost, I think, might have enjoyed it. Kenny liked getting in a tough situation and getting out of it. He just really had a little magic touch.
There's a world of difference between the Gulf Coast redneck Riviera and the West Coast home of the Silver and Black.
I was drafted in March of 1968, and I was a small-town Alabama boy at Berkeley and Haight-Ashbury in the late 60s at 20 years old. The hippie movement and that sort of thing was taking place, and it was the bell-bottoms and the loud colors and the psychedelic stuff and all of that sort of thing, and it was wild and crazy and fun.
But not at first. It was 3rd and long again for Ken Stabler. He was exiled to the Continental Football League to rehab a knee injury. In 1970, He lost his father to a heart attack at the age of 47. Stabler spent 5 seasons backing up Daryle Lamonica and holding for George Blanda. He wore a happy face, but inside, the snake was hissing.
He was anxious to play, and so he would go into Al Davis's office and ask him to trade him, and Al would tell him every single time the same thing: go stand on your head.
I was tired of backing up, and I wanted to play, or I wanted to be traded someplace where I could play. And after practice, John came up to me and said that I was going to start the next week against St. Louis.
He and some of the guys went out and they got caught out after curfew and they got fined. And for some reason, Madden still decided to start him the next day, and he completed 15 passes in a row, and they beat the Cardinals.
Let's go. The kid from Alabama. Okay, in the huddle today, we got the snake at quarterback.
Stabler wasn't a mad bomber. He delivered precise, surgical strikes. He was exactly the quarterback the Raiders needed, but not the one Al Davis wanted.
I was not a strong arm down the field player. Daryle was. Daryle was perfect for the Raider offense and what Al wanted to do. And then I came along and defenses went to more zone type thing. And so it fit my game perfectly behind a great offensive line and my very accurate style of play. It had to go along with this weak arm left-hander.
Despite damaged knees that limited his running, Stabler led the league in touchdown passes in 1974. He received his NFL Most Valuable Player award in primetime.
You know, I've always had a special admiration for quarterbacks. How do you feel when you're standing there holding the ball and you see a 270-pound monster charging at you?
Let's see, how would it feel if you looked out there and all the idiot cards were completely blank?
Sheer panic.
You got it.
Snake was never rattled. He was at his best when the score and the clock were against him.
Then came the snake, and Kenny Stabler hissed passes while the clock ticked away.
Keep it close. Keep it close. Everybody knew if we kept it close, Kenny would find a way.
Come on, Snaker!
And Stabler was on the money, and the Raiders have pulled this one out of the fire.
You know, there's people all around him are jumping up and down and yelling and screaming. The fans are going crazy, and he can stand over there on the sideline and just be as calm as he is during the week. And I could never understand that. That's amazing.
He was the Raider without the eye patch. And he was the swashbuckling Raider. He was the one. And the people took to him. You could put his picture on the logo, and people would say, yep, that's it.
Now, if you're the quarterback of the Raiders, you got to be a hardcore dude. You know what I mean? You got to be, you know, cooler than most and crazier than most. He's, to me, the rock and roll athlete when you could be a rock and roll athlete.
He would say the huddle was 90 proof in the first half, but he threw 6 touchdown passes in the second half.
How much sleep do you need to go play 3 hours? I don't really need an awful lot of sleep, and I would read the game plan by the light of the jukebox sometimes. But we just, you know, boys and a beer, you know, that sort of thing, you know, the go and hang out and talk football and drink beer and chase the girls.
We used to invite queens. These would be the girls that we knew from town, and we needed to upgrade. So Snake says, fullback, got it. And he brought in Carol Doda from the Condor Club over in San Francisco. Uh-oh. Here we go. That's it. I can't believe this. Oh, my God. Well, that's our boy. That's the leader of the team.
The time that I spent on the street or having fun with the nightlife, I never let it interfere with the fact that I realized that I had a terrific responsibility to our team and to our owner and to our coach and to my fans to give them their $14 worth every Sunday.
Stabler led Oakland to 3 straight AFC Championship games. The Raiders lost all 3.
We were starting to wear a little bit of a label of a very, very good football team, but not able to close the deal, not be able to win the big game, and I think we're all aware of that.
The 1976 season lay ahead, and Snake set his sights on the ultimate prey, a Super Bowl trophy.
We went to do a speaking engagement in Oakland, and the night before the engagement, we went down to Jack London Square. He wanted to go down there. That was a hangout place. I walked in a bar, then I said, any Kenny Stabler fans in here? The entire bar emptied out onto the street. There was 50 or 60 people standing around Kenny. He stood there for an hour and told stories and talked to everybody, emptied the bar completely out.
Jack London was also Stabler's favorite writer. London once wrote, "The proper function of a man is to live, not exist. I shall not waste my days trying to prolong them. I shall use my time." In 1976, it was Stabler's time, starting with the Steelers in Week 1.
Thing that always popped into my mind going into training camp is we need to have best record in a conference and make Pittsburgh come to us. And one way to start that off is to beat Pittsburgh regular season in Oakland.
Pittsburgh led by 14 points with less than 3 minutes to play.
A 4th and 10 do or die, and suddenly Stabler was in the sights of number 75, Mean Joe Green. But the snake is slippery.
You're always going to get some breaks that'll going to go your way, and a lot of times you make your own breaks.
And what have we here? But a snake slithering in the short grass to make the score 28-all.
The Raiders won in overtime and went 13-1 in the regular season.
If you're going to be the best, you got to beat the best. Pittsburgh was the best, and they have all the jewelry to prove that. And we wanted to win it the way that we should win it, is to go out and beat the best teams.
Come on, baby, let's go!
First up was New England, the only team to beat them in the regular season.
Too many third and longs will make you sleep on your side of the bed. You know, you're going to get knocked around.
With 14 seconds to play, and the Raiders trailing by 4, Stabler took over again.
Stabler rolling to the left. He's got a goal. Wins it in. Kenny Stabler, touchdown Oakland.
This is Bill King at the Oakland Coliseum, the home of the Oakland Raiders. Time and again, they've arrived at this point, the AFC Championship game, only to be, in one way or another, bitterly disappointed.
Stabler play fake, drops back. Here comes a rush. He gets rid of it. To Frankston. Touchdown Raiders. Here comes a blitz by Ham, and he throws. Touchdown Raiders.
We'd been criticized for not being able to win the big one. Me as a quarterback not being able to win the big one. After the game was in hand, and that was like a piano falling off your back.
2 minutes to the Super Bowl. 2 minutes to the Super Bowl.
These are hungry football teams, and the world waits to find out who's going to wear that Super Bowl ring.
And John looked around the room and said, this will be the single biggest event in your life as long as you win. Let's go. And our boy Kenny played a fantastic game.
A brilliant work of art by the master of his position. Yasha Heifetz never played a violin with more dexterity than Kenny Stabler is playing the Minnesota Viking defense.
He probably should have got the MVP. You would never expect him to play any other way than what he played that day at the Super Bowl. That was Kenny.
Put a 1 up there, baby. Put that number 1 up there. You're right. You're the best.
Thanks, Snake.
I'm happy for all of our guys, you know. I mean, it's just 40 renegades together, you know. And I don't know how to describe the feeling. It's unbelievable. It's more than I expected. It really is.
Al and I hugged in the locker room 5 minutes after the game, and I said we finally did it, and his reply was, "Can you do it again?" Al.
The answer to Al Davis's question was no. By 1979, the playoff victories had dried up. But despite having his best year statistically, Stabler's fragile relationship with Al Davis finally shattered.
At the end, when he left the Raiders, it turned really sour. He got to the point where the Raiders were losing, and it was in the media, and he said, the more interceptions that I threw and the more games we lost, the fatter I got, the drunker I got, the older I got, and the more women I got.
It was time for Stabler to leave the Raiders' family and fame for an uncertain future. In 1980, Ken Stabler traded his stark silver and black for more colorful stage wear when the Raiders and Oilers swapped quarterbacks, sending Dan Pastorini to Oakland.
It turned out to be biggest trade in history, two big-time, big-name starting quarterbacks at the height of their careers.
The previous 2 seasons, the Oilers lost the AFC Championship in Pittsburgh. Stabler, who had broken through the steel curtain, arrived to fan frenzy with head coach Bum Phillips.
He said, 2 years ago, we knocked on the door. This year, we beat on the door. Next year, we're going to kick the son of in. And so people saw Stabler as being a Super Bowl for this city.
Anything less than that it will be failure in a lot of people's eyes. It'll be failure in mine, too. 527, 6 route.
Bam.
There we go. The first day, he doesn't know any of the players, he doesn't know any of the plays. Drop back, hit every pass. Found a guy open, hit him. Found a guy open, hit him. He was amazing.
Good morning, Saul.
Kenny has got the football team in the palm of his hand, which a quarterback's got to have.
It's hard not to like a player that after every practice sits naked in his chair in front of his locker, smoking a cigarette with his leg crossed, doing interviews. He just kind of opened himself up. Here I am, I'm the snake.
If Willie Nelson played football, he'd be Ken Stabler. You know what I mean? It's like, he always reminded me of a guy who did it his own way.
He was a hot commodity.
His nickname became a fashion statement. His TV show hosted stars like Burt Reynolds. He even had his own reptilian beverage.
Oh, yeah. Ken Stabler, the snake venom.
Snake came in and he rejuvenated the offense. And then Bum Phillips traded for Dave Casper, the ghost, so he could be reunited with the snake.
We thought they called him Snake because he was all seeing like a cobra, like he could see everything. He would start to throw the ball and change his mind at the last second and throw it over here.
I couldn't believe that Kenny Stabler with that left hand could hold that ball like that and slide around people. Of course, he wouldn't have for speed, you know, he couldn't run.
Blessed with Earl Campbell, the league's leading rusher, Bum Phillips often had to rein in Stabler.
When he said, hey, Ken, it can't be like this. Snake said, oh, I can get it done, Bum, I can get it done.
Earl still rushed for more than 1,800 yards that year. And he took a beating because everybody prepared for him.
He knew I would get winded, and I said, hey, Snake, throw one all the time. He said, Bum would get mad at me. I said, throw one, Snake.
Together, Campbell and Stabler went 11-5 in the regular season.
1980 was as much fun as anybody could possibly have watching, writing, or playing for a football team.
But in a twist of fate, Stabler returned to face his former team in the playoffs.
We got the snake number. The snake ain't slick enough now.
Snake They got beat up bad in that wild card game. They thought they were going to win and go to the Super Bowl. And they got crushed. They got physically manhandled.
But boy, he wanted that game. He wanted to rub that in our face. You know, you made a mistake. I think that kind of hurt him more.
They lost. Bum Phillips was fired the next day in what's still known here as the New Year's Eve massacre. It just changed the whole franchise. It all went down the toilet.
A year later, Snake left Houston to be reunited with Bum in New Orleans.
Next time we got 3rd and 1, throw something. Take the big game.
We need to.
His first season, Stabler took the team to within 1 game of the playoffs for the first time in franchise history.
Way to go, Cowboys. I love you, man. 49 again, 4.
Kenny Snake. That's a bad one, too.
But by his 3rd year, his 4th knee surgery, and 15th season, Stabler faced his last 3rd and long in the NFL.
I remember one time he came walking into the training room, he was going to the whirlpools, and he made a left turn. You just heard this pop, and he just kind of reached down there and he wiggled a little bit, and he said, "It's still on." That's not the Ken Stabler I grew up watching.
Is this final? Are you now at the end of your NFL career?
Yes, this one's final for me. I'm content with retirement, and I'm content with my career.
Because he was part James Dean, Cool Hand Luke, and part John Wayne, he had kind of an aura about him. In that regard, when he left here, I think he would say, now why would I be making a big fuss about nothing for 3 years in New Orleans?
How do you want to be remembered when it comes time to write the book on Kenny Stabler?
Well, if they're talking about quarterbacks, and my name comes up, if they say I was a good quarterback, that'd be fine with me.
On the Gulf Coast and everywhere else, trouble hovered over Ken Stabler. Always, it seemed, there were rumors and accusations that threatened to knock him off his perch.
There's some misinformation. There's a lot of stuff going around. There's a lot of people flapping their jaw all over this town.
Raising hell, drinking, things of that sort.
It's none of their business what you and I do.
Oh my gosh, I was sitting in a bar with Kenny Stabler one night when he sold his wife's Mercedes for $500. And I was like, really?
Kenny Stabler was at the Concord Inn last night and closed it down at 2 o'clock in the morning. And then you'd hear somebody else say, he was out in Fremont till 3 o'clock. I saw him out in the street. You'd hear all these, he couldn't have been in all those places at one time.
Right, Mr. Fewer career touchdown passes than me?
Right, Mr. Never Been to the Big One.
Once a rumor gets started, it just seems to grow and grow. Wish that I could just tell them all what they can go do.
Stabler has been the subject of federal investigations, focusing on his continuing association with Nicholas Dudich, a convicted gambler from Perth Amboy, New Jersey.
How unbelievable is that to think somebody who spent his whole life with the purpose of winning a game would fix a game? It's just preposterous.
The Snake was a charmer. He was married 3 times and divorced 3 times.
My dad did not pick the right girl all the time. He picked beautiful women for sure. But that was my dad. He was impulsive. That's what makes you who you are. And he wouldn't be the Snake without making those decisions. And some of those decisions are the reason why he has the fans that love him the most.
Nearly always, it was Snake who was left standing. But in 1998, after a visit to his mother's, Stabler fell hard.
And I get a call, and it's Kenny saying that he had found Mama dead. It really changed Kenny. He was very sad and within himself for a long time.
Stabler was knocked down hard again after 3 DUI charges and 2 convictions.
Another arrest for former NFL star and Crimson Tide broadcaster Kenny Stabler. Police picked him up in the South Alabama town of Robertsdale.
Helping him through the troubled times was partner Kim Bush. Both loved to spend time with his 3 daughters, the Snakeettes, and his twin grandsons, the Grand Snakes. Together, they helped oversee Snake's XOXO Foundation that still raises money for children's charities.
I can just tell you over and over again about how good he was to everyone. And the other is just this incredible curiosity for knowing there's something bigger out there. He called God the big guy. He told me that many mornings he sat on his deck with a cup of coffee, watching the sun come up, and just thinking and thinking. And he said, I think I've kind of got all this figured out. This whole thing with the big guy, isn't it just about being constantly aware? He said, isn't it just about knowing that you can't ever get away from God? He's always there. He's in the middle of everything you do. You're in the middle of everything he does. Isn't it just about being aware? I thought that was pretty profound.
So was the constant pain from his aching knees that made it hard for him to walk later in life. He planned on getting them replaced in early 2015 in order to keep up with his grandsons.
And he said, well, I'm not getting my knees done tomorrow because, long story short, I have been diagnosed with colon cancer.
I didn't know that Ken Stabler was suffering from cancer. So Ken, because you are my man, because I love you, I'm going to offer a quick prayer for you. Father, I do pray for my old buddy Stabler that I played ball against years ago. I pray, Father, that you would guide the doctor's hands and restore him to his health. The years are adding up, Father, but I would pray that you would give him more life on the earth while he's here. In the name of Jesus, I pray for Ken. Amen.
His philosophy was buckle up that chin strap, fight, play hard till the last second on the clock. And that's what he did.
I come home one afternoon and he's like, oh, look what I just ordered. And I said, what? And he said, it's a boxing bag and a speed bag. And I was like, for what? He said, so I can work out in the garage. He wrote in big bold letters, cancer. And he went out there to beat the hell out of it. That is the hard part for me, is that I think he believed he was going to beat it, and I knew it was a formidable opponent, that he probably didn't have a great chance.
On his final 3rd and long, Snake prevailed again. He passed away peacefully, on his terms, with his family, listening to Sweet Home Alabama. He lies with his Crimson Tide colors, near his parents, back in Foley.
This is my new head coach. This is my daughter, Alexa. She's 9 months old and is already an armchair quarterback.
I'll never be as cool as my dad. And a lot of people maybe get embarrassed of their dad because maybe he's a little dorky or says something stupid that embarrasses them. Never for me. I'll always be immensely proud because of the person he was, the football player he was, and most importantly, the dad that he was.
The early Kenny was, let's have fun and let's just ride this horse and put him up wet. The older Kenny, once those boys, those twins, Jack and Justin, came into his life, he idolized those boys.
The Grand Snakes.
Let's go, 12!
Stabler's old number is worn by Justin. Jack wears number 9, and both are starters for their Arizona high school team.
They were super close. It was really special.
Get him, Jack! Yes!
Because he didn't have any sons, and so I'm so glad that he got to have them in his life.
He'd say every single time, you know, play hard and hit him in the mouth.
I used to always look up and I'd see his big white hair, and I used to always spot him out. It's really important. I mean, we have to carry on his legacy the way he played. We gotta have it in us, and I think it's really special. We need to keep it going.
And ever since he passed away, I just wanted to do it for him. He's like my drive.
Daddy's office.
2 months after Stabler's death, his family was in Oakland. Years earlier, their father and Al Davis had made peace. They were there to light Al's flame and honor Snake one final time.
Raider Nation from all parts of the country, please welcome the loved ones of Ken the Snake Stabler.
While we lost our father, our grandfather, our partner 2 months ago, we know that we're not the only ones that suffered an immeasurable loss. You too, as our family, as our Raider family, suffered a great loss too. But today is not about being sad or mourning. My dad loved nothing more than a good party. So let's have a good time and do what Dad would have done and just win, baby. Go Raiders!
And you just remember how great the Snake was. The big games, he was big. The tough games, he was tough. The hot games, you know, when it really got heated, he was the coolest guy in the field. And I always said that if I had one quarterback to make a drive the length of the field at the end of the game to win that game, that guy would be Ken Stabler, number 12, the Snake. I just want to say, Snake, thanks for the memories. We miss you, we love you, and we'll see you in the Hall of Fame.
For Ken the Snake Stabler, his spirit will live on in the hearts of Raider Nation forever. Farewell, number 12.
His light still burns bright, and it will for a long time.